This video is a continuation of the Becoming an HCV Landlord. We are now going to go over some of the specifics within the HAP contract. The Rosenberg Housing Authority still recommends that you read the HAP contract fully, but we are going to go over some of the highlights that are in that contract. The part of the HAP contract that I will be going over, the part is listed in the upper right-hand corner of the slides if you want to follow along. As stated in the previous video, the Tenancy Addendum, which is part of the HAP contract, which is Part C, must be added to your lease, and the Tenancy Addendum will supersede your lease. And your signature on the HAP contract states that you have done this. Also, this section talks about at any time during the HAP contract, if the unit has failed an HQS inspection and repairs have not been made after 30 days, that the Housing Authority will abate your HAP payment for the amount of days that it has taken for you to make those repairs. And you may not seek to recover that HAP portion from the tenant. The tenant will still be responsible for their portion, but the part of the Housing Authority's payment that has been abated cannot be recovered by the tenant. Part B.4. The HAP contract will terminate at any time if any of the following conditions occur. If the lease is terminated by the owner or by the tenant. If the Housing Authority terminates program assistance to the family. If the family moves from the unit. If the family has went 180 days without a HAP payment being made on behalf of the family, the contract will terminate. If the Housing Authority has insufficient funds to pay for the family, upon the death of a single member household, if there is not adequate enough space in the unit for the family, if the family if the family breaks up, or if the family fails to maintain their unit according to the HQS. Part B.5. This is concerning the utilities. The lease must specify what utilities will be paid by the owner and tenant, and this was also expressed in the first video. You need to make sure before signing your HAP contract that you review Part A, which is right above your signature, and ensure that the utilities that you had placed on the RTA match what's on the HAP contract and match what's in your lease. Part B.6, regarding rents. At all times during the HAP contract, the rent to the owner may not exceed the rent to the owner for comparable non-assisted units. Part B.7, the PHA payment to the owner. Our payments from the RHA will be made each month to the owner. Payment will be withheld if the unit is not in compliance with our HQS. It can be withheld if we have overpaid or if there is a reduction on termination of the contract. It can only be paid on behalf of the family that is living in the unit and on behalf of the family that is listed on the HAP contract. And there will be no payment to the owner for the month following the family moving out. Part B.7c talks specifically about the Housing Authority's payment to the owner. The Housing Authority's payment is always determined by the Housing Authority, and it is dependent upon the income of the household. It is subject to change, but you will be notified through an amendment when that change occurs. And your first monthly payment, if it does not start on the beginning of the month, will be prorated for the partial months. Part B.7d. The monthly assistant payment will be credited against the monthly rent to the owner for the contract. The payment that is made by the housing authority cannot be used toward utilities. It cannot be used toward deposits. It cannot be used toward late fees or any other fee that the tenant owes you. It must only be credited to the monthly rent. Part B7E. The housing authority will only pay assistance payments in accordance with the HAP contract for the designated voucher holder for the family that is designated in Part A of the contract. We do not pay any amount in excess of the housing assistance payment, and we pay no other claim by the owner on the family. Part B7F. I believe we already stated. For some reason that was on there twice. Part B8. By accepting the housing authority's payment each month, you are certifying that the following is correct. The unit is being maintained according to the HQS inspection. The unit is leased to the family on the contract, and Part C has been attached to your lease. You also certify that you are not receiving any other payments or considerations from any other private or public source for the rental of the contracted unit. You are agreeing that the family does not own or have any interest in the unit. And to the best of your knowledge, the family is residing in the unit and that is their only residence, and that you are not a direct family member to the tenant. If any of these conditions are not true, you cannot accept the payment by the housing authority. You must contact the housing authority, and we need to rectify the situation, or we need to terminate the HAP contract. Part B10. The owner breaches the contract by the following actions. If you have violated any of the provisions within this Part B, such as on the last page, if any of those items are not true, that is a breach of the contract. If you have committed fraud, bribery, or any other corrupt criminal act in connection with the Federal Housing Assistance Program. Part B14, the assignment of the HAP contract. You cannot assign your HAP contract to another owner without written consent to the housing authority. So if you sell the home that the family is residing in, you must contact the housing authority so that we can enter into a new HAP contract with the new owner. You must always supply any information that the RHA deems pertinent to the reassignment. We have to ensure that that new owner has not violated any federal housing assistance program and is in good standing with the housing authority. And we may deny the reassignment of the new owner if they are guilty of any of the violations under breach of contract that were previously listed. And this concludes the Part B of the HAP contract. Thank you.